Nintendo is destroying the gaming industry. No, that's not an exaggeration. And it's all because of a single lawsuit that has the potential to change gaming forever. That's right. With their latest lawsuit against PocketPair, the developers of Palworld, they're not going after just one developer. They're threatening the future of gaming as we know it. Now, before we go any further, I need to be upfront about something. I have made a lot of videos about Palworld, and I'm a huge fan of the game. I mean, my channel is literally called DC Palworld. And while that wasn't always the name of my channel, more on that later, it shows just how much this game means to me. But my love for Palworld didn't come from nowhere. It's tied to something deeper. Like I'm sure many of you did, I grew up with Pokémon. Pokémon Blue on the Game Boy, absolute magic. Pokémon Colosseum and Gale of Darkness, some of my favorite gaming memories ever. But over the years, Pokémon started to feel stagnant. Nintendo got complacent, the games stopped evolving, and honestly, they became a disappointment for me. So when I found Palworld, it reignited the same excitement I used to feel as a kid playing Pokémon. And that's why this lawsuit feels almost personal. It's like watching a company I once loved try to crush something that represents everything I wanted Pokémon to be. Though, I know not everyone feels this way. To any die-hard Nintendo fans who may be watching, I get it. Pokémon is a beloved franchise, and it's natural to feel protective of something that's meant so much to you. But consider this. What has Nintendo really done for you beyond making those games? Have they supported you in preserving classic titles through emulation? Have they encouraged community-driven events and tournaments? Have they treated content creators, fans, just like you, with respect? Time and time again, Nintendo has shown they're not here to prioritize you, the player. They're here to protect their bottom line. And in this case, it's not just about protecting Pokémon. It's about using their power to threaten creativity and competition in gaming. Is that really something worth defending? So what's actually happening here? Well, it's important to clarify that this isn't a copyright lawsuit. It's a patent lawsuit. That means Nintendo isn't arguing that Palworld's pals look too much like Pokémon or that the game's aesthetic borrows too heavily from their brand. Instead, they filed a lawsuit accusing Palworld of infringing on several gameplay mechanics that they claim as their own. The patents are as follows. Patent 7455191. This patent covers the mechanics of catching creatures, specifically focusing on the process of throwing a capture item, like a Pokeball, at a creature and how the interaction works within the game. Patent 7493117. This one is centered on the mechanics of aiming and throwing a capture item at a target. Success is determined by the target's health and the player's actions, with indicators showing the likelihood of capture. The captured creature can then be used in combat. Patent 7528390. This patent covers the ability for players to control and ride different types of creatures, including airborne, land, and water mounts. Okay, so personally, I think this is ridiculous, but legally speaking, they're well within their rights to do this, and that's the problem. Companies shouldn't be allowed to patent game mechanics whenever they want to. And sure, Pokemon may have some claim to the idea of capturing creatures in an object and battling with them. It's their signature mechanic after all. But when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, it really starts to feel absurd. Take the patent about riding creatures, for example. You mean to tell me that Nintendo thinks that they can claim ownership over something as fundamental as riding mounts? Games have been doing this for decades. Skyrim, World of Warcraft. There's an endless number of examples to choose from. And yet, here we are, with Nintendo trying to argue that Palworld violated their innovation by letting you ride a creature in a virtual world? Well, let's be honest for a second. This lawsuit isn't just about the patents. They aren't going after Palworld just because of a few shared mechanics or gameplay similarities. It's a calculated move to shut down a competitor that got too big for good old daddy Nintendo. The thing is, Palworld isn't just another competitor. It's a fresh take on the monster catching genre, offering mechanics and features that Pokémon has never dared explore. Palworld dared to fill a void that Pokémon hasn't addressed in years, and instead of stepping up their game, Nintendo's choosing to play courtroom politics. This isn't just protecting intellectual property, it's about maintaining dominance. So why does this matter? Well, It's because this lawsuit isn't just about Palworld. It's about what happens when massive corporations like Nintendo start claiming ownership over the fundamental building blocks of gaming. I mean, imagine if every basic gameplay mechanic was patented. Jumping on platforms? That's Mario. Swinging a sword? That's Zelda. Where does it end? It's an incredibly dangerous precedent for the gaming industry. Imagine a world where basic mechanics like riding mounts or capturing creatures are locked behind patents. Indie developers, the ones that drive gaming innovation, would be crushed. These creators can't afford endless legal battles, yet they're the ones that take risks to keep gaming exciting. Take Stardew Valley, for example. It didn't invent farming sims, but it reinvented them with heart and creativity, offering something uniquely its own. Or Hollow Knight, which transforms side-scrolling combat into a gorgeous blend of art and storytelling. Neither game was afraid to build on existing ideas, but would they even exist in a world where innovation means risking everything? That's the kind of future we're looking at if lawsuits like this keep happening. A future where innovation is crushed under legal threats. A future where developers are too scared to create something new. And a future where gaming becomes nothing more than a soulless cycle of rehashed ideas, controlled by corporations with no interest in pushing boundaries. You see, gaming thrives on creativity, on people taking risks, especially indie devs who aren't tied down by massive budgets or corporate expectations. That's what Palworld represents. It's not just another Pokémon clone. It's doing something new with the monster catching genre, exploring ideas that Nintendo hasn't even touched. But instead of stepping up to compete, Nintendo's trying to shut it down. And what's especially frustrating about this is that it's not the first time we've seen this kind of corporate overreach. Whether it's music, movies, or even gaming, there are so many examples of artistic innovation being smothered by legal nonsense. And who ends up paying the price? We do, the players. When has a patent like this ever benefited the consumer? Never. Patents like these don't help developers innovate, and they certainly don't help players enjoy better games. All they do is give corporations more control, stifling creativity and competition in the process. Look, let me give you a real example of why this would be a problem. Let's assume this all becomes the norm. Companies like Nintendo could patent game mechanics whenever they want, and face no consequences for doing so. What current game would be heavily impacted by this? Ooh, I know. How about Marvel Rivals? One of the most popular games out right now. Let's be honest, while Marvel Rivals has very different characters, lore, and design choices, there's just no way it could even exist in the same ecosystem as Overwatch. Despite the creative and visual differences, at its core, it's still just another hero shooter. So if Blizzard wanted to, they could just patent the mechanics, lock it all down, and bam, no more Marvel Rivals. It's ridiculous, man. It should honestly be illegal. No matter how you look at it, this is like buying a monopoly piece by piece. It starts small, patenting a single mechanic here, a gameplay system there, and then suddenly, entire genres are locked behind corporate walls. And the scariest part about this is it definitely won't be just Nintendo. They're not the only company that could or will take advantage of this kind of unchecked corporate power. Activision, Blizzard, Ubisoft, EA. Imagine a world where they all start locking down entire genres because they were quote-unquote first. First-person shooters, MMOs, platformers, it doesn't matter. The ripple effects with this kind of precedent could turn into a tsunami that wipes out indie developers entirely. And the result? A world where gaming innovation is at the mercy of a handful of megacorporations. Genres become stale, creativity becomes risky, and entire sections of the gaming community are left out in the cold. And let's say Nintendo wins this lawsuit. Palworld is forced to bend the knee, change its core mechanics, or worst case scenario, stop selling copies altogether. What do we gain from that? Palworld players aren't suddenly gonna drop the game and go back to Pokémon. Pokémon won't have any competition pushing them to innovate or improve, and Nintendo, they'll only solidify a reputation for stifling creativity and crushing smaller developers. So I ask anyone who's siding with Nintendo, what are you really defending here? Is it pride? Pride in a company that doesn't even know you exist, whose games you just happen to buy and enjoy? Because at the end of the day, that's all this is. Defending a corporation's monopoly doesn't make Pokémon better. It only makes the gaming industry worse for everyone. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This is just the way things are. There's nothing we can do about it. And honestly, I get it. Companies like Nintendo feel too big to challenge. Shoot, most gamers don't even think about these things. They just want to play the next Zelda or Mario and have fun. But that's exactly why this kind of overreach goes unchecked. The more we accept it, the more normalized it becomes. And look, I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to stop buying Nintendo products forever or to boycott every major gaming company, because it's really not that simple. But what I can say is this: we need to talk about it. We need to call out this behavior, share stories like this one, and keep the conversation alive. Because if we don't, if we let this slide, it won't just be Palworld. It won't just be indie games. It'll be the heart and soul of gaming itself. So here's my challenge to you. Don't let this story fade into the background. Talk about it. Share it with your friends. Or even just take a moment to think about how much you value creativity in gaming. The more we raise awareness, the harder it will be for corporations to get away with this kind of behavior. Gaming isn't just a business, it's an art form. And if we don't stand up for it, who will?